So Penal Code 273.5 is one of the more serious domestic violence statutes, and a person who is arrested on charges of violating 273.5 is facing either a misdemeanor or a felony, depending upon the facts and how egregious the facts allegedly are. Obviously, if you're arrested on such charges or any charges, it does not mean that you're guilty. It may very well be that you're innocent. But the presumption by the police will be that you're guilty of the crime, and that's when the arrest occurs. In order to be charged with 273.5, or rather to be convicted of 273.5, there needs to have been some physical injury resulting from an altercation with your spouse, live-in partner, roommate, or what have you. Therefore, if the police arrest someone based upon that, they will make an allegation that the alleged victim was injured. Maybe a bruise to his or her face or body part, even a slight scratch to an arm can trigger allegations of 273.5. And the district attorney's office, upon investigation, will decide if they're going to file it as a misdemeanor or a felony. And again, depending upon the facts. Was it a light scratch on the arm, allegedly? Were there serious bruises on the alleged victim's face? All of these play into how such a case will be charged and how it will ultimately be determined. There are a number of defenses to a charge of felony or misdemeanor 273.5. One of them is that you were acting in self-defense. Person struck you and you were defending yourself, for instance. Another one is that your conduct was not willful or intentional. And again, these codes require intentionality, or what's called specific intent, meaning that if you actually injured the other person, but it was not on purpose, that can be a defense to Penal Code 273.5. The third defense could be that you're just being falsely accused. You actually didn't do it. And if there are no witnesses, and there's no admission by the defendant, it could be that the case is weak. And again, we will go through those facts and analyze whether or not that is in fact the case. So again, the key issue with 273.5, at least in terms of the charge, is whether or not there is actually a visible physical injury. Without one, chances are you'll probably be charged with a 243E1, which, as I've stated in a separate video, is the less serious statutory authority that applies to domestic violence. 243E1, as I've stated, is generally a misdemeanor. And generally, if the facts suggest it, and if there is no visible physical injury, then you will likely be charged with a 243E1. There are cases where a person may be charged with the more serious 273.5, but in the middle of the case, because their attorney did work properly or fought the case properly, and the evidence came out that there was really no physical injury, the district attorney's office has the discretion to lower the charge to, say, a 243E1. And these cases, it can also ultimately, possibly if the evidence is lacking, if the witnesses are not believable, the case can also be dismissed under certain circumstances. An example of a 273.5 case was one I handled several years ago, where my client's girlfriend, who was an actress at the time, had alleged that he had beaten her up physically. He was arrested, was facing prison time actually, because her injuries were relatively severe to the extent that she had bruising on her face, a chipped tooth, so on and so forth. He vehemently denied ever harming her. But again, he was charged with 273.5 because there were visible physical injuries to this young lady. So we went ahead and investigated this case in depth. And in fact, I found out that approximately, based upon this investigation, approximately a week before this incident, where they actually did get into an argument where the police were called, she had been in a movie. And I was able to obtain the video of the movie that she had been in a week before, and the movie included scenes of violence, where she literally had to be physically struck by the other actor. And the areas where she was struck were consistent with the injuries that she later claimed. Her face, the right side of her face was being struck several times. And again, we're talking about the finished version of the movie. There may have been several takes for that movie to have been undertaken. So based upon that evidence, which I provided to the district attorney's office, they decided to dismiss the charges against my client because they could not prove that the injuries that she had to her face were as a result of his conduct, or they was a result of the movie she'd been in a week before. And her credibility had also suffered because they'd asked her questions about, did you obtain these injuries in any other manner? And she'd said no. So at that point, the district attorney's office thought she didn't have any credibility. Based upon those factors and a few others, we also sent what's called a mitigation package to the district attorney's office, a package that talks about a person's life, what kind of life they've led, if they're a good person, do they do charity work, for instance, do they help youngsters in school, just to develop a certain sense of the character of the person, because very often in the criminal justice system, defendants are dehumanized. That in conjunction, and this man had done a lot of good works, that in conjunction with the video led to a complete dismissal of the case against him, and he was very happy about that result. So if you have been charged with violating Penal Code 273.5, we do offer a free consultation. Please contact us. We will go over your case with you patiently and in depth. We will tell you what strategies and options are available to you, and we will do everything we can to help you reach a positive result for your case.